Every application has a common UI structure. You need navigation and headers on every page, and maybe a footer too. To provide this structure, we can use a layout view in ASP.NET MVC. If you are familiar with ASP.NET Web Forms, then you have probably used master pages. But in MVC applications with Razor, we use layout views. Layout views can call two special methods, render body and render section. And these methods allow the content views to plug in their pieces of the UI into specific locations inside the layout. Let's look at an example. Inside of the index view that we've been working on, we're outputting HTML, but we're not putting out all the HTML that the client is seeing. We're not dealing with this menu, we're not outputting this graphic. That's all the responsibility of the layout view. Layout views, you'll typically find them in the shared folder because you typically want to share them among multiple controllers or across the entire application. Notice the file extension is the same as regular Razor views, a CSHTML extension. There's nothing special about a layout view except for the fact that you intend it to be your layout view. It's where you want to have your doc type, it's where you want to have your head tag, it's where you want to have your body. And any changes that we make in here will be reflected across the entire application because in this particular application, this is the only layout view that we're using. So for instance, if I were to take this section and comment it out, and I can also do that by hitting Control-K, Control-C, then first of all, what I get is a Razor server-side comment, @*, and it ends with *@. Nothing inside of this comment now will be rendered. The literal text, like this div, will not be rendered out. The C# expressions, like HTML.ActionLink, they will not execute. If we refresh the view right now, then our menu has disappeared. So let's undo that change. Inside of every layout view, you'll have a render body call. That is where the content from your content view, the primary view that you've produced through a view result in your controller action, that is where the output of this view is going to be placed, right where you call render body. One obvious question at this point might be, how does the MVC runtime know to use this layout view? We're obviously not saying anything inside of index.cshtml that would tell the MVC runtime what layout view to use. And the answer comes from a small file that you will find. It is called _viewstart.cshtml. If we open up _viewstart.cshtml, what we'll see is that there's a code block inside of here that sets a layout property equal to views shared _layout.cshtml. So the secret here is that _viewstart.cshtml, it has the ability to execute this code before my view starts rendering. And essentially, it's setting this layout property for all of the views that are rendering. It's setting their layout to be that _layout.cshtml in the shared folder. _viewstart does this because it is named _viewstart.cshtml. If we were to name that to any other thing, this magic wouldn't happen. Also, _viewstart.cshtml is hierarchical. So this is in the root of the views directory, which means it gets to execute before any view inside of here is able to execute. But if I were to take a copy of this and paste it into this reviews folder, then we would be able to override the view start that is at the root level. Let's change this to be _layout2.cshtml. Let me save everything, refresh this page, and we'll have an error that the MVC runtime went out to find this _layout2.cshtml and wasn't able to find it. And that's all because we set this inside of the reviews folder in an _viewstart. So let me delete that. Refresh the application, everything works. What if we were to take this line of code and put it in index.cshtml up here in this top code block and change this back to layout2.cshtml? Then we're back to an error, but this is just to prove a point that inside of individual views, I can set this layout property and specify the full path to a particular layout view, and that is going to be the layout view that this view uses. If I remove that, then I'm just relying on the default, whatever is specified in a viewstart.cshtml file. And it can be in the same directory as my view, or it could be in the top level views directory, in which case this would execute for everybody, unless individual folders were to override it. Now inside a layout view, in addition to render body, you can also invoke a method called render section. This provides a content view the ability to plug in content into another location inside of the layout view, in addition to the body. So you call render section and you pass in a section name. Let's call this the footer section, and then you can specify whether this section is required or not. For right now, let's say that this is a required section. Now if I come out to the page, we've fixed the layout 2 problem, but if I refresh, I'm going to see an exception that a section is not defined, the footer section is not defined. Since this is a required section, I'm going to be forced to come into my index view and provide content for that section. And we can put this in any place inside of the view. Let's put it up here at the top. Actually, that doesn't make a lot of sense, so let me take that and put it to the bottom of the view. And inside here we can put anything. So this is just some additional markup. This is the footer. Save this. And you can see that that particular piece, this footer section, that was rendered at the bottom of the page where the layout view specified that section should go. I'm going to make this section optional so that other pages in the application aren't forced to implement this footer. And now that I am on the home page, I'd like to be able to click a link in the menu to get back to my reviews. So let's go into the layout view and add that. Let me also remove this unnecessary semicolon here. It's not needed, it didn't create an error, it's just a habit I have from C# programming. Let's add another list item, a list item that calls into html.actionLink. It displays the text reviews, and we want it to go to the index action of the reviews controller. We've talked a little bit about the ActionLink helper before. It talks to the routing engine. It says, I need a URL that would produce these data tokens, controller equals reviews, action equals index. What does that URL look like? The routing engine will return the URL. The ActionLink takes it and just sets it as the href inside of an anchor tag. So once I save everything and refresh, we'll have a link to reviews. And if I click that, we're back to our reviews page.